of course, his widow.
I am.
Um, I guess the people would want to know, how is he as a person? Wh-
He okay. Everything you see on TV is not of silver and gold. It's not what you really would think it was going to be. He was one person behind closed doors, but he was another person. When I left Georgia, I married him in Huntsville, Alabama. But when I came to California, he appeared to be a whole nother person. He was not the person that I thought he was going to be, but I still loved him anyway. It was abuse in there. Well, he tried to be abusive to me. I'm not really the country girl to be abusive to, because I'll set your ass on fire and ask questions later. There was one time when he threatened me and I didn't know what he was going to do. And I'm not gonna lie, I tied him to a chair. He fell asleep in the chair. When he woke up, he was tied in it because I wanted to know why he threatened me. But I'm a country sister, so I wouldn't know. It was certain times where he got mad because I wanted to walk away. He would go out, he broke my windows out my car and threatened my life. He told me he thought he dreamed he shot my chest out with a double barrel shotgun in my sleep. I
Mm.
never knew why he would think about doing things like that, but I never knew he was a violent man either. I found that out after the fact, but I knew as a man and individual that he had been through so much, but it still don't give you the right to disrespect or hurt women. The things that you guys see of him being a happy-go-lucky pop lock and hip hop person, he was that. He could dance his ass off and he was good at what he do. But yet and still he was broken on the inside, and a lot of people didn't see that. He loved being famous. But when he didn't have that red beret on, nobody knew who Fred Berry was. And that bothered him, that nobody knew him. There were so many demons that he carried within himself that it was unexplainable when changes came about, because I didn't know how to react to certain things. But I moved so fast because I did not know I was going to marry him. He said, "You ain't married. I'm not married. Let's go to California and take it by storm." I had
Oh,
already felt like, yeah, I had felt like I had outgrew Columbus, Georgia. I was a master cosmetologist. I would win all my hair shows. Before we left California, before we left Georgia, we did a big hair show there. And I think we raised over $40,000, if not more. That's how we got from Georgia to California. But then after I got here, we was getting ready to do a movie deal about him and my life story. The producers love me. They love me. They love some bubbling brown sugar. They love country people for whatever reason. But then Fred got mad and he stopped the whole deal. So it was, if it wasn't about him, it couldn't be about anybody. That was one reason why I was going to have the reality show, to show you that everything that you think is green on one side is not. It don't stop me from loving Fred. It doesn't stop me from seeing who he was or what's happening. And I don't want you guys to look at anything any differently. But when you read my book, I'm not going to be in my book and lie and act like he was a soldier and some of the things he did to me and he did to the other women as well. But I'm going to let them share that story because that's their truth to tell. But in those relationships before me, all these women had some type of abuse that they suffered behind Fred Berry. And when the police was called, they did just like they did when I called the police. They did nothing to help us, nothing to
mhm.
set us free. And there was nothing that I could do about that. So I had to pretty much learn like California on my own. And like people say, don't tell about how Rerun did you because it's going to disrupt his legacy. Well, hell, mine was already disrupted when I left Georgia. And one day I was sitting in this garage because we had moved in the hood because he wanted to be in Hollywood. I didn't like Hollywood. It was too phony, it was too artificial. Everybody was all over the place and they couldn't even relate to a sister like me. And we had moved in this little condo. It was in the hood. I was real cool with it. But some country folks owned it from Montgomery, Alabama, and they loved me to death. The old woman said, "Essie, come downstairs and I want you to listen to something." So she hid me behind this stand and I sat there and I listened. And Rerun told that man that he brought me out here to pimp me because he knew I was a moneymaker. Now you pimp a hoe. So you brought me out because he saw I was talented. Like when I do hair, I create like robot churches, bird cages. I do shit that moves on top of your head. I'm a fantasy person. My creativity level goes beyond a whole nother level of a situation. So to know that I had married someone and didn't know he was abusive, I didn't know that he didn't have a relationship with his children. I didn't know that they consider him a deadbeat father. I didn't know he was abusive to the women before. I found out all these things later. So even though he was a fat, happy, pop locking cat, he had his own demons. But when he came to Georgia, we would go out, we would kick it. I introduced him to so many positive people. He was there to do a movie about his life story called Testify. And when I say Fred Rerun Berry loved himself, he loved himself. I got documents, probably about 400 to 1,000, about this thick of documents that he left. So that's how I tell you how good I am with paperwork. This paperwork is from 1976 on down, and that paperwork will be in my book to show his story. So I'm gonna tell some of my truth, but I don't want people to look bad at him because I told my truth, because he made such an inspiration to so many people in front of the camera, but behind closed doors, he was broken. And a lot of women, they shut up and didn't say anything. They remained in silence. I don't know if I had knew who he was then, would I have married him? But because how he died, I married him October the 22nd, 1999. He died October the 21st, 2003. So God had to know that I was going to be the woman that carried his legacy. So I want to do it in an upright position, but I want everybody to know, just because you see somebody don't mean they don't have demons. Don't mean that they're perfect, because everybody see Fred and all they see is a pop locking dances, but behind closed doors, he was a bad cat as far as how he treated women. And each one of the wives that went on with, that's why I was going to have them on Widow Wives and Exes, to give them that platform to tell their story, to not make you look at Rerun any type of way, but to know that there are women like me who has been in the celebrity industry. And I know when you say something, they will not believe you. But Fred is deceased now, and I can't change what has happened. But if my voice can do something to make someone stronger to know it ain't what it's cut out to be, I'm not going to hide that truth to make him look good and then not tell the real truth of how the celebrity world really is. I even asked one of his ex-wives, do you think that he sold his soul? She said humility. She said, yeah, she think he sold his soul on humility. You know what I'm saying? And he was a millionaire twice. How you get to be a millionaire and you're broke? And now his legacy is worth $12 million. So if not more, I seen 12, I seen 5, I see 250. And someone said, Ms. Berry, do you know whatever Rerun's legacy is worth, that is what you're worth? I said, is that right? So
You
now
was little, yeah.
I didn't know that though. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. So where is that money? So I have some attorneys right now looking into that. I'm getting ready to make a deal with them, because I know that the rest of the cast members want to do a movie and other things, but they can't do shit without me signing something. And I don't sign no $2 contracts. I would rather sit on his story for the rest of my life to sign a $2 contract and y'all make all the money and then his family go broke. We're not doing that. So my best thing now is, and I'm just about finished, to finish up my book, to put everything in it so people can see who he was for himself, because he was a foster kid, used to eat out of trash cans. He never knew his father. Yeah. He legally changed his name to Rerun because the white people in the industry tried to take his name. Before he became Rerun, he was a locker. He was a group called the Locker, and they discovered pop locking, which ventured off into break dancing. So he danced with Frank Sinatra, traveled all over the world with the group of the Lockers. And then one day he went to ABC, and he said they was looking for a white boy. See, Fred Berry, when they casted ABC and y'all see him on What's Happening, it was supposed to be a skinny white boy, and Fred showed up. He said, here I am. They say, no, we're looking for a skinny Caucasian man. We're not looking for you. Fred said, but I can do it. He did the part. They let him try it out for it because he showed up. And 2 weeks later, when he came back, they called him and he became Rerun. So he gave y'all a character. Y'all gave him a name. But then when Rerun and What's Happening went into syndication and they want to do What's Happening Now, Fred wanted more money and they didn't want to give him more money. So they tried to stop him from using his name, and they took Rerun and say, because he's dressed like he dressed, you can't use Rerun no more. I have those documents. He legally went to court with his mother before she died. and he changed his name to Fred Rerun Berry. So his biological name is Rerun. And when he changed his name, that way he was already could use his character because he came dressed. When y'all see him suspended baggy pants, that's how he dressed as the Lockers. But when he got on that show, they was like, we're going to take your legacy. You can't use your own rights no more. That's what made me know how Hollywood is. That's why if you ain't got the majority of the rights to anything, then don't even sign the paper. Because if you get in 1% of something more than what you are, then it's an issue. Less than 90 days ago, maybe last year, I was discussing a business deal because they wanted to do a show on me called Born Again Version. I'm with that, right? But then they wanted 51%, but they'll say, I'll give you whatever you want, Miss Berry. We'll give you the money, whatever. But you want 51%.
Which means you own the majority, which means you control me at that point.
Right. And Storm, when I say they went at me to try to get this, they really wanted me to sign. I just could not give someone 51% of who I am. Because if I'm coming up with the idea of born again virgins, so how many more born again virgins that you're gonna see? Because I could take a lie detector test, but it just reminded me of how they took Rerun's legacy. Yeah. And I didn't want to do that, and how he had to fight. And if we don't take control of who we are, then someone owns the rights of who you are, and then they have the controlling right of that. And so now I got lawyers looking in on that because I want his legacy to be preserved. I want the story to be told, but I want it to be told truthful. That's why I don't have to go get none of the ex-wives. I could tell his story without them. I just chose to get them to give them the benefit of the doubt. But at the end of the day, that was his story, and he left it in a big folder so I can tell it. And the demons that he went through in the past from the women or whatever, I can't say why he went through that. I know what I went through with him, but it didn't stop me from loving him. It don't make me want y'all to say, don't watch what's happening, because it happened, because I still stood by my man anyway. But God allowed for me to be his wife because of the dates. Every other woman that Rerun would marry, he would marry them and go back to the state that he married them in. He would divorce them and go take their shit.
Oh.
Divorce them and go take all their stuff. So he didn't get to do that to me, nor was God going to let him do that to me. And I'm smart enough to allow that. But that was who he was. And I can tell y'all, maybe me and Storm will come back and we'll talk about the whole what's happening cast, because I can roast some of them as well. I won't get down into that right now, but there's a lot of dark stories behind that people don't know about that they need to tell. And no disrespect to nobody, Ernie and all them, Ernest Thomas is a fucking liar. It's a lot of shit that he lied about. Now, if you want to go get me and Ernest Thomas on this screen together and we can talk, we can do that. But I know you're a natural born liar. And I know a lot of stuff that they all said about Rerun wasn't true. And because of Fred, like they were going to cancel what's happening. Okay. Fred went to him and say, yo, we're going to stand together. Let's do this. When they got to the meeting, Fred was the only one stood up. And then right after that, they fired Fred. And then everybody else came in. But they couldn't hold that. They could not hold that show without Fred. Because besides Fred Berry, Shirley, and Dee, that was the funniest characters on it.
That was the show. Was the show.
That's really all who people remember. Ernest still trying to hold on, but he was jealous of Fred. And I could tell that because we did a show called Unsung in 2014. You might could find that. We did an Unsung. They started calling me. Couldn't nobody do shit. I wasn't going to do it. But then Francesca, his first wife, called, and I said, okay, I'll do it. But then after we did it, they went up there and told the producer all kind of ugly stuff about me. And the producers, they were walking on eggshells. So I said, let me play this game since y'all listen to what he gonna say instead of knowing who I am. And so I was like, give me some fried chicken, some collard greens, some cornbread. I want some apple pie. I was acting like that kind of bitch walking up in there, right? Only because he had already painted a picture of me. And then they was like, Miss Berry, we're so sorry. I said, Francesca told me some of the things that were said. So I went back to them and told them, don't do that. Don't judge a book by its cover. And when it was all said and done, I was one of the highest paid people on Unsung because I negotiated my own deal. Okay. But at the end of the day, like Ernest and was mad because they wanted me to just keep signing contracts for shit that didn't make sense. And I wasn't going to do that. Yeah. So now I'm in negotiation to see where this is going to go, that I can sign some type of rights over that I won't be compensated, but they can use the rights to go ahead and do Fred Berry's legacy and his life story because it needs to be told. And he paved the way for so many people in the world and heavy set people too. his personal life, if you told people about his personal life, they probably would judge him. But if that's the case, y'all ask need to judge Steve Harvey too, and a lot of these other raggedy celebrities that be doing what they do too. So you can't hold no stone, because all these celebrities are raggedy behind closed doors, and they put a picture in front of a screen and they want you to believe it. And that's including Fred Berry. I'm a Southern girl, born and raised in Columbus, Georgia. I don't have time to be fake and shaking and playing. It's not that serious to me. What I said is what I said, and I mean what I say. And I'm not going to backtrack on anything that I say. I don't care if I got discovered and I'm highly famous or whatever. You go back and say I called somebody a nigga, I'll be like, yeah, I called him a nigga because he was acting like a nigga. If you're a racist, I'm going to say you're racist. If you're a liar, I said it. You're not going to make me look bad because I done got up in the industry. And you're not going to take who I am away, because God already created me to be who I'm supposed to be. So you can't take away nothing that ain't already given to me.
It's a storm show. Ay, it's a storm show.